Ready? Shall we call the meeting to order and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, our first item this evening is to recognize Ken Galehouse for his service on the Park and Recreation Board.
Many of us know Ken. Ken has served for 24 years on the Park and Rec Board, and it was and is a very active board member. Ken moved to the township, I guess, almost 40 years ago, something like that, and became active in the community, raised his family, 2 or 3 kids, and all went through the school district and are alumni of the school district. But Ken was a very active member of the park board. I was doing Parks and Rec when Ken came on, and at that time I think he worked for Comcast and had his own audio company. And Ken would bring a speaker, outside external speaker for our fishing contest and Easter egg hunt, and he would latch him onto the luggage rack of the family van, and we would have a speaker system so we could make announcements and stuff at our programs and events. Ken was probably at every event and program, Horsham Days, Easter egg hunts, fall festivals that we used to have. The list goes on. You were big fishing. I remember you helped Jack at the fishing contest for Horsham Day. Also at the 5K, you just asked Ken, and he just was there and would help however he could. Also, if you remember, some of us that grew up here, we would have a radio station. So if you were driving up and down Horsham Road a few weeks before Horsham Day, there would be a radio station that you could tune into between Babylon and Limekiln Pike and get all the updates about Horsham Day, get the schedule of events. That was all Ken. Ken set all that up with the radio station. So that was his Comcast expertise, and he set that all up. So, well, I will miss you, Ken. I know you're not moving out of the township, but as you get ready to retire from your career and begin your travels, that's why you did not seek reappointment, because you're going to be traveling. But I wish you all the best, and thank you. Thank you for all that you've done for us for almost 25 years and with all of our activities, events, and programs. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. It was a pleasure and honor.
To repeat what Bill said, thank you so much for your service over the years. We have a proclamation we'd like to read. Be it proclaimed, whereas it is an honor and a privilege to recognize Kenneth Galehouse for his devoted service to Horsham Township and our residents as a member of the Park and Recreation Board for the past 24 years. Whereas, born in Orland, Pennsylvania, Ken chose to settle down in our township and has lived in Horsham for 39 years. After attending Springfield High School, Montgomery County, Ken attended the College of New Jersey prior to joining the Park and Recreation Board. Ken worked with Comcast. He was a business partner and even owned his own commercial audio production company. Ken was dedicated to Horsham Township, having also served as a volunteer for the Easter egg hunt, Horsham Day, the Freezer 5K, and other township-run events. And whereas, having joined the Horsham Park and Recreation Board in 2000, during his duration on the board, Ken served as vice president for 3 years and president for 1 year. Having moved into Horsham Township in 1987, he was seen in our community and seen it grow into what it is today. His time spent in Horsham has been time well spent, and there is nothing that he would change about his experience. And whereas his years of service bring great credit to himself, his 3 children, of whom are all Hatboro Horsham School District alumni, and Horsham Township. Ken Galehouse truly exemplifies the noble endeavor to leave a place better than when he found it, and in doing so inspires all of us to do the same. And whereas, In recognition and appreciation of his 24 years as member of the Park and Recreation Board, we thank Kenneth Gelhaus for his outstanding leadership, applaud him for his dedicated service to our community, and wish him the very best in his future endeavors. Thank you. Would you like to say anything to the group?
You had to speak it to the mic.
I'm usually behind him, like that gentleman there. Now, as I said earlier, it's been an honor and a privilege to be part of this township. I remember coming in, it was nothing but cornfields and maybe 5 streetlights. Well, we all know that's changed quite a bit. And it's just been a great opportunity, and I thank everyone. And growing up with Bill here and Mike McGee, just a lot of names that go back in the past, but truly enjoyed it all. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to get pictures.
All right.
Okay, you got to come back up.
You got to come back up. We're going to do a picture.
And 1, 2, 3.
All right, next we have some announcements. We have the Freezer 5K, patrol car. Dennis, do you have the information on this, or Bill?
Sure. We had a great end of year this past December. The Pack the Patrol Car event that was held at Giant, we broke our record. We had 25 vehicles, police vehicles, packed. So that, I think the previous one was 21 or 22. So we beat our record by a few cars, which was great. St. Vincent de Paul Society needs all that extra food they can get right now. The Freezer 5K, we had 160 people participate in that. That was 30 more than last year. So that was a great number for us, the highest since the pandemic's been over. So two good events for the community, and a lot of the proceeds from the Freezer 5K will go right back to St. Vincent de Paul Society. The Myria Grant Award. So the grant application that we put in for Myria last May, Myria found out in December how much money they would be getting from the state, and the township will receive a little over $11 million. That will cover the construction cost of Limekill and Horsham Road intersection improvement, as well as the construction of Blair Mill Road Phase 3, which is in the design engineering stage, as well as the construction of the Horsham Road Bridge replacement and widening out here in front of Kohler Park. So we are ahead of the game with construction. We have these projects that we have in engineering stages and phases. Now we have fully funded for construction. There's no burden on future years on the taxpayers. We have the projects now funded for construction. So it was again, good December in the township. The last thing, just to announce, we have our first annual Citizens Municipal Academy. So it's sort of going to be like the police academy, but it'll be an 8-week program. People have to pre-register. We're going to put a lot of stuff out on social media and the website. It'll be in the next township newsletter that'll be out in the next 2 or 3 weeks to the residents. And each week it'll be a different department of the township. So code enforcement, public works, police, administration, finance, library, fire company, water and sewer authority. And it's a chance, we're taking a maximum of 20 people for this session. And it's a chance for them to learn what we do, learn about their local government, day-to-day operations. So it's, again, education, community outreach to the people and to the residents. So that'll be, a lot of information will be coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks of how to register.
Next is public comment. Anything from the audience? All right. Next is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is the treasurer's report.
The balance in the general fund as of December 31st, 2024, and thus the balance carried over into 2025 is $5,225,187.27. In 2024, we did transfer $1,091,012.23 to the Capital Improvement Fund. These funds are budgeted for capital projects. For a more detailed presentation of our current financial position, I would refer you to your monthly booklet.
All right, then do we have a motion?
I move to ratify the ACH electronic payments in the general fund and streetlight fund in the amount of $5,857.59, and further move to authorize payment of same. I move to ratify the list of checks in all the funds in the amount of $18,186.06, and further move to authorize payment of same. I move to approve the list of checks in all funds in the amount of $703,388.28, and further move to authorize payment of same. I move to ratify the U.S. Bank credit card transactions for the month of December 2024 in the amount of $18,913.10.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have subdivision and land developments. First is JR Real Estate Group, Select Soccer. Is that ready to go?
That's ready, yeah, that has received recommended approval from the Planning Commission. You have reviewed it. We have their agreement to accept conditions, so it's ready for your consideration this evening.
I just have one question before we vote on it. We had one loose end last time about the road. How's that driveway going to work?
One way, like you requested.
Like we requested, so it goes in one and out the other?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Just to clarify, the Graham Park side is both ways, right? It's only in
Yes.
the front. Okay, thank you.
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, granting preliminary final approval to the JR Real Estate Group LLC Select Soccer, 219 and 223 Keith Valley Road, Land Development Plan 24-09-D.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Next is Big Rock Realty Associates, the former Toll Brothers. Is there anything to?
No, same thing. Planning Commission's recommended preliminary final approval. You reviewed it. We had their agreement to accept conditions this evening, and it's ready for your consideration.
Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt the resolution as proposed, granting preliminary final approval to the Big Rock Realty Associates LLC, 250 Gibraltar Road, Land Development Plan 24-12-D.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you,
All righty,
everyone.
thank you. Next, we have to render a decision on the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority, 725 and 729 East Butler Pike conditional use application.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. At your meeting on December 11th, you heard the application of the Water and Sewer Authority to put water lines through Zones 1 and 2 of the riparian corridor in order to serve the properties at 725 and 729 Butler Pike. I've drafted an adjudication granting that approval with the conditions that the applicants have to comply with the review letter of Gilmore and Associates, the recommendations of Montgomery County Planning Commission, the Horsham Township Planning Commission, the Horsham, and they should execute, the property owners have to execute a fully executed water service agreement with the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority, as well as complying with all other codes of the township. If that is your intent, you can simply make a motion to approve the adjudication.
Does have any questions on that? All right, then do we have a motion for this?
I move to approve the conditional use application for the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority, 725 and 729 East Butler Pike, 13-CU.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right.
Next is to introduce an ordinance updating general provisions in the zoning ordinance to include, but not limited to, definitions, accessory uses, and parking standards.
I'll just make a brief statement about your next 4 agenda items, so I don't have to. We have in front of you this evening draft ordinances for what I call housekeeping minor updates to our zoning ordinance and our subdivision and land development ordinance. As you know, we go through each year and we sort of like see what comes to zoning hearing board. We see different things that we say, yeah, you know what, we need to tweak, we need to change things, we need to add things. All of it's minor, nothing's major. So your next 4 agenda items is introducing those 2 ordinances, and then the resolutions establishing a public hearing on for those ordinances, and that's where we'll get into more of a presentation on what the changes are during the hearing.
Okay, then do we have a motion to introduce the first one?
Move to introduce the ordinance as proposed, updating general provisions in the zoning ordinance to include, but not limited to, definitions, accessory uses, and parking standards. Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, do you have a motion for the next one?
I move to introduce the ordinance as proposed, updating general provisions in the subdivision and land development ordinance to include, but not limited to, notification requirements for applications, moving the fees to the fee schedule, and fencing requirements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And a motion for the next one.
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, establishing a time and place for a public hearing on the ordinance updating general provisions in the zoning ordinance to include, but not limited to, definitions, accessory uses, and parking standards. Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, at 7:45 p.m. in the Horsham Township Municipal Building, 1025 Horsham Road, Horsham, PA 19044.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And a motion for the last one.
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, establishing a time and place for a public hearing on the ordinance updating general provisions in the subdivision and land development ordinance to include, but not limited to, notification requirements for applications, moving the fees to the fee schedule, and fencing requirements. Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, at 7:45 p.m. in the Horsham Township Municipal Building, 1025 Horsham Road, Horsham, PA 19044.
Second.
Seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And the last item tonight is to consider the Boyd Company's proposal for national site selection services.
As council knows, we entered into a agreement about a year ago with the Boyd Company. The Boyd Company is a national site selector company that is working with us and helping us to attract major employers to Horsham Township. When we talk about a major employer, we're talking 1,000 to 2,000 jobs per employer. So they did those 3 reports for us. That was their first job and first proposal. The proposal for you this evening is covers 4 new things: to develop and define an incentive program to attract companies to Horsham would be one of the things that they would do through this proposal. They would update the 3 reports. They were for headquarters to come to Horsham, for a pharmaceutical, and for a financial company. Those, as you know, the information in those reports are good for about 12, 18 months, and then they all have to be updated. So this proposal, they would update those 3 reports for us. They would consult with us on trade shows, national trade shows and conferences that we should be at. They would also represent Horsham Township at 2 to 3 of those conferences and shows at the national level where companies go to find out about cities and municipalities. And then the last thing is just general consultation. We didn't have that in the first proposal, so this would, that, you know, when something pops up and something we need to talk to them, we can call them up. And this proposal covers that consultation. So those would be the 4 areas that this proposal covers. It's in the amount of $38,500, and we're splitting that 50-50 with Myria. So Myria is paying 50%, the township's paying 50%.
There's no questions. Do we have a motion?
I move to authorize the agreement dated July 12th, 2024 with the Boyd Company, Inc. for National Site Selector Services and Consulting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Does anybody on council have any additional business? All right, then our next Township Council meeting will be on Monday, January the 27th at 7 p.m. in this auditorium. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Adjourned.